The hum of the space station was always the same, steady and constant, like the heartbeat of a giant metal beast. For Ethan, a young human worker from Earth, that sound had become background noise, something he hardly noticed anymore. But tonight, everything felt different. The walls seemed closer, the air heavier, and the silence between each hum stretched longer than usual. He shared his living quarters with an alien woman named Lyra. Her species was elegant, tall, and strange to human eyes, with luminous skin that shifted faintly in color when emotions stirred. They had lived as roommates for almost 3 months, never more than polite, never closer than simple companions. Ethan had always thought of her as quiet and distant, until the lockdown began. It started with the alarm, a sharp sound cutting through the station, red lights flashing across the halls. The intercom crackled with a cold voice. Lockdown initiated. All residents must remain in quarters until further notice. Doors sealed shut with a mechanical thud, locking Ethan and Lyra inside. At first, he thought it was only a drill, but the tension in Lyra's eyes told him otherwise. She stood in the corner, breathing heavier than usual, her glowing skin flickering in strange patterns. Ethan frowned, asking softly, "Are you okay?" She did not answer right away, her eyes fixed on the sealed door, as if escape mattered more than his question. Finally, her voice came, low and strained. "It has started." The words unsettled him. "What has started?" he asked, trying to keep his tone calm. Lyra turned her head slowly, and for the first time, Ethan noticed something different about her. Her pupils had narrowed, glowing faintly in the dim light, her chest rising and falling with each rapid breath. He stepped back instinctively, not out of fear, but because the air itself seemed to thicken between them. She whispered, almost to herself, "The season." Her words carried a weight he could not understand, yet every instinct told him it was dangerous. The small room they shared suddenly felt more like a cage, 2 lives pressed together with no escape. Ethan tried to distract himself, pacing the room, tapping the wall console, searching for updates. But the screen showed only a repeating message, "Lockdown in progress, remain calm." Calm was impossible. Behind him, he heard Lyra's footsteps, slow, measured, but carrying something wild. Her glowing skin pulsed brighter, faint blue lines running like rivers across her arms. "Lyra," he said carefully, "what's going on?" She pressed her hands against the wall, trembling, fighting something he could not see. Finally, she looked at him, her eyes fierce and vulnerable at the same time. "You shouldn't be here with me. Not now," she said, voice breaking between words. His heart pounded, her tone more frightening than the lockdown alarm itself. "Why? What's happening?" he pressed. Her lips trembled, as if speaking the truth would make it worse. "It is my cycle, the heat season of my kind, and once it begins, I cannot control it." Ethan froze, the weight of her confession sinking in. He had heard rumors about alien biology, about instincts and dangerous seasons, but he never imagined he would be locked inside a room with it. His throat went dry, and he tried to think of a way out. There was none. The doors were sealed, the lockdown absolute. Lyra sank onto the floor, clutching her arms, her glowing patterns brightening with every second. She looked fragile, yet dangerous, like a storm building beneath her skin. Ethan stepped closer but stopped himself, unsure if comfort or distance was safer. The hum of the station continued, steady and uncaring, while inside their quarters, chaos was about to awaken. He stared at the sealed door, wishing for rescue. But deep down, he knew no one was coming. The next hours would decide everything. Trapped in the room with his alien roommate during her heat season, and already, things were starting to get wild. Ethan sat frozen near the edge of his bunk, his mind racing while the dim lights flickered. Lyra's breathing grew sharper, her glowing skin pulsing in waves, as though her body was fighting against itself. He had seen many strange things since leaving Earth, but nothing compared to this moment. Trapped with an alien who looked less and less like the calm, quiet roommate he thought he knew. She paced the room like a restless predator, her hands brushing the walls, her long fingers leaving faint, glowing trails. Her hair shimmered under the faint light, strands shifting as though charged with static. Ethan swallowed hard. "Lyra, talk to me. Maybe I can help," he said, though his voice betrayed his fear. She snapped her head toward him, eyes glowing brighter, voice husky with strain. You can't help. No one can. This is what we are. It is not meant to be shared with others. Her words made the air colder, yet her presence burned hotter. She pressed her palms to her temples as if trying to quiet a storm inside, muttering in her language, words he could not understand. The sounds carried a rhythm, almost like a chant, something primal that unsettled him deeply. The silence between her breaths grew heavy. Ethan felt his throat tighten. He forced himself to stay calm. Look, we're stuck here. I can't get out. You can't get out. Maybe if you explain it, I can at least understand what's going on. For a long moment, she only stared, her glowing eyes unblinking. Finally, she whispered, "It is my heat season. Once every cycle, my body demands things my mind does not always want. Instincts sharpen, urges grow, and control slips." Ethan's stomach twisted. He understood enough. She was not only dangerous, but also vulnerable. She turned away, gripping the edge of the table so tightly that cracks spread across the metal surface. Her strength was rising, her control slipping, and Ethan realized how fragile his own position was. A single mistake, a single wrong move, and she might hurt him without meaning to. The walls felt smaller now, the lockdown timer on the console still blinking its cruel reminder. Hours left, no escape, no safety, only this small room. Lyra crouched in the corner, curling her knees to her chest, glowing patterns spreading across her arms like fire veins. Her whisper was broken. "You should stay far away, human. It is safer for you." But Ethan shook his head slowly, fear tightening every muscle, but something stronger holding him steady. "If I leave you alone, it gets worse, right? You said you can't control it. Maybe talking, maybe focusing on me helps." Her lips parted, her breath catching. She studied him with eyes both dangerous and pleading. "You do not understand what you are offering," she said, her tone sharp but weak. The air between them crackled. His instincts screamed to back away, but he forced himself to stand firm. This was no longer only about survival. It was about trust, about whether he could reach her through the storm of her instincts. She rose slowly, each movement graceful but tense, like a predator stalking its prey. Her glowing skin illuminated the room in eerie patterns, shadows dancing across the walls. Ethan took one careful step closer, his heart hammering. Lyra tilted her head, studying him as if he were both danger and salvation. Her voice trembled. "You humans, you are not built for this. You should fear me." He whispered back, steady but quiet. "I do fear you, but that doesn't mean I'll abandon you." Her chest rose sharply, a flash of conflict crossing her glowing features. For a second, Ethan thought she might lunge at him, but instead, she turned away, pressing her forehead to the wall. Her voice came low, broken. "If I lose control, remember this moment. Remember that I warned you." The hum of the station grew louder, or maybe it was only the blood in his ears. Ethan sat back down, never taking his eyes off her, every second stretching like an hour. She was changing before him, body and mind caught in a battle he could not fight for her. And yet, he felt the strange pull of connection, fragile and dangerous, but real. Trapped in the lockdown, Ethan realized he was no longer only fighting fear. He was fighting the urge to understand her, to reach across the gap between their species. The night was far from over, and every passing moment drew them closer to the edge. Neither of them knew if the bond forming was salvation or the beginning of disaster. The room felt like a cage of silence, broken only by the hum of the station and the sharp rhythm of Lyra's breathing. Ethan sat on the edge of his bunk, his hands gripping his knees, eyes fixed on his alien roommate, who looked more like a storm given flesh. She paced back and forth, her glowing veins brightening with each heartbeat, her skin alive with strange blue patterns. Finally, she stopped and turned toward him, her voice low, shaking. "You deserve the truth, even if it terrifies you." Ethan nodded, though his throat tightened. "Tell me." Lyra's eyes narrowed, her glowing pupils reflecting the faint light. "My kind follows cycles, heat seasons. They come once every cycle of our world. And when they arrive, we are consumed by instincts stronger than reason. It is not sickness, it is not choice, it is survival of our blood." Her words hit him like a weight. He had expected danger, but not this. She continued. We seek closeness, we crave touch, and when locked away with others, the instinct grows impossible to resist. Her fingers curled into fists, her voice breaking. It is why we live apart during this season, why we never allow outsiders near. It is not safe for them, not safe for us. Ethan's chest tightened, understanding now why she had begged him to keep distance, why her body trembled like fire trapped in fragile glass. He tried to stay calm, though his pulse hammered like a drum. And if you lose control? Lyra looked away, shame and fury in her glowing eyes. Then I might hurt you. Or worse, I might claim you in ways you cannot understand. You would not survive what follows. The words chilled him, yet something inside refused to retreat. He whispered, "You've lived here for months. Why didn't you tell me?" Her lips curved in a bitter smile. "Would you have stayed if you knew?" He had no answer. Silence filled the space between them, heavy and unyielding. Lyra stepped closer, the glow from her skin brushing against the dark, her presence like heat rolling off a fire. Her breath shuddered, her voice lowering. "Do you still not fear me, human?" Ethan swallowed hard. "I do, but I also see you fighting it. You're not just instinct. Lyra, you're more than that." Her glowing eyes softened for a heartbeat, a flicker of vulnerability flashing through the storm. She turned sharply, pressing her palm against the wall, whispering words in her alien tongue, words that sounded like prayers or curses. Ethan leaned forward, desperate to keep her talking. "If you've always gone through this alone, then maybe you don't have to this time." Lyra spun back, her gaze blazing. "You don't understand. It is not companionship I crave. It is hunger, a hunger that will break me. And you, if I let it loose." The air thickened, the tension heavy, her steps dragging her closer without her will. Ethan could feel the warmth radiating off her skin, the strange light making shadows dance across the cramped room. His instincts screamed to run, but the locked door mocked him. There was nowhere to go. Her voice cracked like dry earth splitting. "If you stay close, if you touch me, I may not stop. Do you hear me?" Ethan's breath shook, but he lifted his chin. "I hear you," he whispered, "but I'm still here." Her chest rose sharply, a sound between a growl and a sob escaping her lips. She stepped back quickly, forcing herself into the farthest corner, her hands digging into the wall until metal groaned. Her entire body glowed like fire beneath skin, yet her face showed only torment. The console beeped, cold and uncaring, flashing the time left on lockdown. 7 hours, Ethan thought, 7 hours locked in this storm with her. His body ached with tension, his mind battling between survival and strange compassion for the alien woman who fought her very nature. Lyra's voice carried across the room, softer now, tired. "If you stay, you must understand, there may be no going back after this night." Ethan met her eyes, glowing like two golden flames, and though fear filled him, a quiet resolve steadied his heart. Whatever happened next, he would not abandon her, not now, not when the truth was finally revealed. The hours dragged like chains, every minute stretching into an eternity. Ethan sat rigid, his back against the cold wall, watching Lyra fight herself. Her glowing skin pulsed with shifting colors, brighter each time her body trembled, as if her instincts clawed their way to the surface. She whispered in her alien tongue, rocking slightly, her voice a mix of plea and warning. At times she rose to her feet, pacing like a caged predator, her movements sharp, her nails leaving faint scratches on the metal walls. At other times she collapsed to her knees, clutching her arms so tightly it looked as though she might break her own bones. The struggle inside her was real. Ethan could see it, and yet he knew he was helpless. Every instinct told him to run, but there was no escape. The sealed door mocked him with silence. He tried to distract her, speaking softly. "Lyra, tell me about your world. Tell me something that keeps you calm." She froze, her glowing eyes snapping toward him, for a moment wild and dangerous. But then, slowly, her voice came, low and uneven. "My world has oceans that shine at night, filled with glowing creatures that sing when the moons rise. It is beautiful, but I have not seen it for many cycles." Her words shook, but she held on to the memory, and Ethan could see her body easing just a little. Encouraged, he leaned forward. "That sounds amazing. Tell me more." Her lips trembled, a faint smile flickering. Our people swim together in those waters when the season ends. We heal there. We rest there. It is the only time our kind feels peace after the hunger. Her glow dimmed for a moment, like the storm inside her paused. But then a wave of heat seemed to overtake her, her skin brightening, her breath quickening, and she staggered against the wall. "No," she hissed. "Talking will not stop it. It only delays it. You should not be near me." Ethan stood slowly, every step measured, his heart pounding. "I won't leave you like this. I know I can't fix it, but I won't let you face it alone." She growled softly, her body trembling, her hand snapping out as if to push him away. But she stopped an inch from his chest, her glowing fingers hovering in the air, shaking violently. Her eyes met his, golden and fierce, but behind them was fear. "I can feel it growing. Ethan, the hunger, it wants me to reach for you. It wants me to take, but I do not want to break you." Her voice cracked, her chest rising fast, the struggle tearing her apart. Ethan steadied himself, whispering, "Then fight it with me, don't fight it alone." For a moment the room felt like the center of the universe, silence heavy, only their breathing filling the air. Then suddenly Lyra screamed, a raw, guttural sound that echoed against the walls, her body shaking with violent energy. The glow from her skin spread like fire across the room, filling every corner with light. Ethan shielded his eyes, but he refused to move back, standing firm as the storm broke before him. She collapsed to her knees, gasping, her hands slamming against the floor, the light fading slightly. Ethan crouched down near her, close but not touching, his voice calm but urgent. "You're still in control. You haven't lost it. You're stronger than this." She lifted her head, sweat running down her glowing skin, her expression torn between fury and despair. "I don't know how much longer I can hold. Human," she whispered. "And if I fail, you will pay the price." The console on the wall blinked cruelly. 6 hours of lockdown still left. Ethan clenched his fists, knowing survival meant more than just waiting. It meant trust. It meant finding a way to help her keep her mind. And yet, as he looked at her trembling form, glowing like a star ready to collapse, he wondered if anyone could endure this struggle. The night was far from over, and the storm inside Lyra was only beginning to rise. The room was thick with silence after Lyra's scream, a silence that carried the weight of exhaustion and fear. Ethan remained close, not daring to touch her, but refusing to move away, his heart still racing, yet his resolve unbroken. Lyra's glowing skin dimmed slightly, flickers of light running down her arms like fading embers, her breaths uneven, shallow. She pressed her forehead against the cold metal floor, whispering in her language, the sound broken, almost like a child calling for help. Ethan knelt nearby, his voice soft, steady. "You're still here. You're still fighting. I can see it." Her golden eyes flickered open, sharp but tired. "You speak as if I have a choice, human, but I don't. My body burns, my mind slips, and every second I hold back is war." He nodded, understanding the truth in her words, yet unwilling to accept defeat. "Then let me fight it with you. Tell me something, anything that keeps your mind strong." Lyra's lips trembled, her voice low. "When I was young, before my first season, my mother would take me to the cliffs above our oceans. We would listen to the waves sing as the moons rose. The sound calmed the hunger before it ever reached me." Her eyes softened at the memory, her body easing slightly, though her glow still pulsed beneath her skin. Ethan smiled faintly. "Tell me more about that. Tell me about the singing waves." She hesitated, then slowly spoke, her voice weaving a fragile picture of glowing tides and creatures that danced in the water. As she spoke, her breathing steadied, her body trembling less, her glow dimming to a softer hue. Ethan leaned in, captivated not only by her story but by the fragile strength in her voice. For the first time since the lockdown began, the storm inside the room felt quieter. Lyra noticed his expression, her lips curving faintly, though sadness lingered. "Why do you try so hard to calm me, when you should only fear me?" Ethan held her gaze, his own voice low but steady. "Because fear doesn't change anything, but trust might. And right now, you don't need me to fear you. You need me to believe you can hold on." Her golden eyes widened slightly, her breath catching, and for a moment, the wild hunger inside her seemed to retreat. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not during her cycle, not during her weakness. Her species avoided, locked away, treated as dangerous until the season passed. Yet here was a human who chose to stay. She turned her head away, hiding her expression, but her voice betrayed her, soft and uncertain. "You are foolish, Ethan, dangerously foolish." "Maybe," he said with a faint grin, "but I'm still here." A fragile silence settled, not heavy this time, but fragile, like glass that might shatter at any touch. Lyra leaned back against the wall, closing her eyes, her glow dimming to faint pulses. Ethan sat across from her, exhaustion in his own body now, but his eyes never leaving her. Minutes passed like hours, but something shifted between them. Not just fear, not just danger, but a bond forming in the cracks of survival. Lyra spoke suddenly, breaking the quiet. "If I survive this season with you here, if I don't break, it will mean something, more than you know." Ethan leaned forward. "Then let's make sure you do." Her lips curved faintly, almost a smile, but her eyes held shadows. She whispered, "Do not give me hope. Human, hope can be cruel when it dies." He shook his head, firm. "Hope is the only thing keeping us alive right now." For a long time, neither of them spoke again, but the silence no longer felt like a cage. It felt like a thread binding two lives together. The console's cold light blinked again, 5 hours left. Ethan exhaled slowly, preparing himself for whatever storms remained. Lyra's glowing form rested in the corner, her body still trembling but her mind clinging to the fragile anchor they had built. The struggle was not over, not even close, but in that small room, something new had begun. Not just fear, not just survival, but the first sparks of an unlikely bond. The hours crept forward, and the air inside the room grew heavier. Ethan fought to stay awake, his eyes burning with fatigue, but he knew the danger of closing them even for a moment. Lyra sat across from him, her knees pulled close, her glowing skin flickering with unstable light, her body trembling as though caught between fire and ice. She had spoken less as time passed, her voice turning hoarse, her breath shallow. Every so often her head snapped up, her golden eyes flaring, and Ethan felt the raw power beneath her control. Each time she forced herself back down, clinging to the fragile bond they had built. But Ethan could see it, the cracks widening, the storm rising too strong for her to hold much longer. The console blinked, 4 hours left of lockdown, a cruel reminder. Ethan whispered, "You've already made it this far. Lyra, you're stronger than you think." She shook her head violently, her voice a rasp. "No, Ethan, you don't understand. The hunger grows each second. It does not fade. It builds, it demands, and soon it will consume me." Her body convulsed suddenly, light bursting across her skin in sharp patterns. She slammed her hands against the floor, metal groaning under her strength. Her eyes glowed so bright he almost couldn't look, her voice tearing through the silence. "Stay back. I warned you, stay away." Ethan's instincts screamed to obey, but his feet refused to move. He took a step closer, steady but careful. "I told you I won't leave. You're not alone in this." Lyra growled, her breath ragged, her hands trembling as if torn between reaching for him and pushing him away. Her voice cracked. "If I touch you, if I give in, I will not stop. I will destroy you." Ethan's pulse thundered, but he didn't step back. "Then trust me. Trust that I'm not as fragile as you think." Her golden eyes locked on him, wide with fury and desperation, a storm raging inside them. For a moment, time froze, her glowing hand lifting, hovering inches from his chest, shaking, the heat radiating from her skin pressed against him like fire. She screamed again, pulling her hand back and collapsing against the wall. Her whole body shuddered, sweat glistening across her glowing skin, her control hanging by a thread. Ethan crouched nearby, his voice calm though his heart pounded. "You're still here, Lyra. You're still fighting. Don't let it win." Tears shimmered faintly in her glowing eyes, her voice raw. "Why do you fight for me? Human, why risk yourself?" Ethan drew a shaky breath. "Because if I give up on you now, then we've both already lost." Her eyes widened, her trembling slowing for a moment, the wild glow dimming ever so slightly. But then the cycle surged again, her glow flaring brighter, her voice breaking into a guttural growl. I cannot stop it. I cannot hold it any longer. The walls rattled as she slammed her fists against the floor, the light pouring from her body filling every shadow. The entire room glowed with her storm, the air trembling with her power. Ethan shielded his eyes, forcing himself to stay close, refusing to leave her in the darkness of her instincts. His voice cut through the storm, low but steady. Lyra, listen to me. You're not alone. I'm right here, and I'm not leaving you. For a heartbeat, her wild eyes softened, confusion and pain mixing with the hunger. Her body trembled, her lips parting as though she wanted to speak, but could not. Then she collapsed forward, her strength finally breaking, her body shuddering as the glow dimmed slightly. Ethan caught her before she hit the floor, his arms holding her trembling form without fear. She pressed her forehead against his chest, gasping, her voice a whisper between ragged breaths. If I survive this, it will be because of you. Ethan held her steady, his own chest rising fast, whispering back. Then survive. Lyra, survive with me. The console's timer blinked again, 3 hours left. The storm was not yet over, but for the first time, it felt as though they might face it together. The room was quiet now, but not calm. Lyra lay against Ethan, her body still trembling from the storm of instincts she had barely contained. Her glow was faint, like embers fading after a fire. Ethan's hands supported her, steady, careful, his own chest heaving with exhaustion. For the first time in hours, the chaos had paused, though danger still lingered in the shadows of the small quarters. She whispered, her voice soft, fragile. I did not lose control, thanks to you. Ethan smiled faintly, relief mixing with fatigue. You held on. Lyra, you were stronger than even you believed. Her golden eyes met his, still glowing faintly, but calmer now, curiosity and trust threading through the light. Why didn't you run, human? She asked, voice trembling. Most would have left when the danger was clear. Ethan shook his head. I couldn't. Not while you were fighting alone, not when you needed someone. Her lips curved in the faintest smile, a warmth in her expression he had never seen. The glow along her skin softened, flickering like a distant star, and she let herself lean against him fully, trusting his strength to keep her safe. Hours passed in silence, the lockdown timer still blinking coldly on the console. But the fear that had gripped the room seemed to fade with each passing second, replaced by a quiet understanding, fragile but real. Ethan finally spoke, his voice low, careful. When the cycle ends completely, will you be okay? Lyra pressed her head against his chest, golden eyes narrowing in thought. I will recover, but I will never forget this night, the danger, the bond, the trust you showed. He nodded. Neither will I, Lyra, neither will I. The console blinked, signaling the final hour of lockdown. Lyra arose slowly, her body still weak, her glowing patterns dim, but her steps steadier, more controlled. She looked at Ethan, a spark of something unspoken passing between them, a bond forged in fire and struggle. You risked yourself for me, she said quietly, for someone who is alien to you, who could have been dangerous. Ethan shrugged. Maybe I'm foolish, but sometimes doing the right thing doesn't care about danger. Her glowing eyes softened, the tension leaving her body almost entirely, leaving only exhaustion and gratitude. For a moment, silence reigned, not oppressive, but full of meaning. Outside the room, the hum of the station continued, life moving on, oblivious to the storm that had raged inside the small quarters. Ethan and Lyra stood together, two very different species bound by trust, fear, and the chaos of instincts. The human's hand brushed against hers, cautious but steady. She flinched slightly, then held it, her golden eyes meeting his, a silent understanding passing between them. They had survived the heat season together, and in doing so, something had changed. It was no longer fear that defined their relationship, but something fragile, dangerous, yet undeniably real. As the final minutes of lockdown ticked away, Lyra spoke, her voice soft, almost a whisper. Next season will I face it alone? Ethan shook his head, firm. Not anymore. You won't face it alone. The words hung in the air like a promise, the room glowing faintly with the remnants of her light. Outside, the station returned to normal, but inside, two lives had been altered forever. The storm had passed, but its mark remained, a bond forged in fire, trust, and the wild chaos of survival.